Hello, this is a video about web typography, how to use unique and dynamic typefaces in your design beyond the normal Times New Roman, Arial, Georgia, all those system fonts that come with it. And I point those out because back in the day, that was all that was available to designers. And the reason being is that while you are designing your page, you have access to all of the fonts on your computer. So they will show up while you're designing your web page. But if the viewer doesn't have that font on their computer, it's just going to show up as the default font. And this is not what we want. This is, we are designers. We want to take control of the aesthetic of the page and the typography. So we need a different method. So before, we were only limited to the fonts that kind of every computer had. So you had Arial, you know, all of those fonts that come with the system. Then one day, CSS 3 and HTML5 came out, and this wonderful thing called web fonts launched. And what it is there are several services that host all the files that you need to display a certain font. And it allows you to link to those servers, and it'll send that information over, and the font will be displayed. So I'm going to show you a couple ways to do that. And in CodePen, I posted some links to some of the services. The most common ones are Google Fonts and Adobe Fonts. Obviously, you're going to need an account with Adobe, which we all have. So I'm going to show you both of those. So here's a CodePen that I created with absolutely no fonts in it. And this is not acceptable. In all your projects, I expect you to be using web fonts and not system fonts, because you're a designer and you need to take control. So let's go to Google Fonts. Here, I just Googled fonts, Google Fonts, and it is fonts.google.com. And we come to this page, and we can scroll through all of these possibilities. And there's a ton in there. I don't know how many, but it feels like thousands. And we can filter them over here. The categories, we could choose serif, sans serif, display. So let's say I want a sans serif for my heading. I can also choose to choose something based on the font family. So if I want to make sure that I have a typeface that has at least 4 fonts in the font family, I could, type in here all 9, etc. Number of styles. We can choose the thickness of it if you want, a thick font, a thin font. We can choose to make sure that it has an italic with it. We could choose width, so more condensed, more expanded, and one that comes with multiple languages, or just one other language. And in here, we can actually click on a font, and then we can see all the fonts that come with that typeface. I'm going to go back and I'm going to see some other fonts. We can also change the sentence that's being viewed. So I'm going to use my actual header. So now I can see what each one looks like in that given font. So I'm looking at Oswald over here. I'm going to click on it and take a look. And okay, I like this one. I'm going to choose it. Let's see, where's the add button? You have select the style on all of these, but what if I want to choose all of them? There used to be a button where you could just add the font. This is kind of like shopping, and you have like an inbox where, you know, it records all the fonts that you've added to your page. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and choose one. I'm going to select just regular. So select this style. So here's kind of like my shopping. It keeps track of all the fonts. So I'm going to use that for my header. Now I need some sort of body copy, and what I like down here is that it offers pairings, you know, fonts that go well together. This is really helpful. So I can choose, that's Roboto, that's Open Sans, Latto, Montserrat, Source Sans Pro. I'm going to go with Latto. So I'm going to add this by clicking on this plus button right here, and that gets added. So now I have Oswald and Latto over here in my little shopping cart area, my review. So I'm good with that. That sounds good to me. And you see some code here. So what we're going to have to do is take a little bit of code and copy and paste it into our either our HTML or CSS. So I'm going to expand this. No, that's not what I wanted. Your subprograms. Okay. Oh, I closed it. That's what it did. Okay. So one thing you might want to take a look at here, if you say add more styles, it'll allow you to go in and add more fonts in that font family. So let's say I'm not sure if I want to use regular 400 or medium 500. I'm going to add the 500 as well. So I'm grabbing both of these. Now, just keep in mind that every style you add on contributes to how long the page loads. So what I suggest is choose all the ones that you want to play with. And then if there are some that you don't end up using, you can remove them later. So that's what I want with Oswald. Let's take a look at Latto. It comes with a whole bunch of different ones. I think I have the regular, and that's fine with me. I'm not going to add any more to Latto. Okay, so down here is the code that we would want to link to in our web page. There's two options here. One says link, and you can tell by those curly brackets that it's an HTML tag. And over here it says add import. We click on that, and it gives us something that we can paste into the CSS. So by default, it gives you the link. I actually, with this, you would paste it into your HTML, but I actually recommend using the @ import. And the reason is that your CSS, when we get into making files and linking them together, the powerful thing about coding for the web is that you can create one CSS file and apply it to many different pages, which is really powerful. If you choose the HTML link, you would have to link it into every single page in your website, if we choose add import, then we don't have to do that. So I recommend choosing add import. It adds a little bit of HTML up here, the style tag. We don't want that because I don't know why they do that. It's kind of annoying. But all we want is the stuff inside of the style tag. So I'm going to highlight everything from the @ sign to the semicolon. And I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to paste it at the very top of my CSS. And that's because you want the font to load before you actually use it. So that's why you want it at the very top. So if we take a look here at this URL, we can kind of decipher what it's doing. It says family, and then Latto, and then and here's another font, family, Oswald, weight. We've got 400 and 500. So just pointing that out. So now we can actually use these fonts. So I'm going to go ahead and change the font family for the H1. And it is Oswald. And there we go. It by default, it put the 500. I'm not sure I like the 500. I think I want it to be thinner. And I chose two weights. I chose 400, which is regular, and 500, which is bold. So I'm going to go ahead and change it to the 400. And I do that with font weight 400. And now I have the 400 version of my font. So I'm happy with that. One thing to be aware of, this font is one word. Okay, if you have a font that is more than one word, like say Times New Roman, something like that, Sans Pro, something like that, you need to put it inside of quotes because you can't really have spaces in the font family property for CSS. So you'd have to put it in quotes if it's more than one word. Let's change the P. So I'm going to say font family. What was it? Latto. And there we go. We've got Latto. So that's how you would use, it's pretty simple, Google Fonts. Again, choose the ones that you think you might want to use, and then later go back and change it to just the ones that you are using and replace the code up at the top. Okay, let's take a look at another method, which is Adobe Fonts. It used to be called Typekit. So let me get rid of all of this. Okay, so we're back to where we were. So I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to search Adobe Fonts, and it is fonts.adobe.com. I probably should memorize that. So in this case, I think you can browse fonts, or you can search for fonts. So let's see, browse fonts. Okay, and it has choices over here. Do you want geometric? Do you want rounded, futuristic, different, one with lots of ornaments. And I think you can choose by sans or sans. I would hope. But it's got some more choices down here. You can play with the interface. In this case, what's good about Adobe Fonts is that it's a subscription. So you're paying for it through your a Creative Cloud account. But it has a lot of the fonts that normally are not free that you have to pay for. They're very famous fonts. So things like Avenir, or Gil Sans. You're not going to find that in Google Fonts or other places, but Adobe has a license with them. So that's really helpful. So say I wanted to use Gil Sans. Gil Sans Nova. Okay, great. It gives you some images here. These are kind of like type specimens, they're displaying the font. So here are all of the fonts in the typeface family. So I want to use, let's say the semi-bold. Over here it says activate font. That's for if you're using it for print. It'll activate font in your Creative Cloud that way. We want to choose at for web project up here. I'm going to go through that process here. So I'm going to say add to web project. And first I got to sign in. Okay. Oh, it just signed me in automatically. Okay, I'm already signed in. So it sort of automatically gives me all of these ones, and I don't necessarily want all of them. So do I have to go through and unclick them all? I'll go ahead and do that. I don't want the condensed ones. I don't want the extra condensed. I don't want the shadowed one. Bold. This is kind of annoying, but I guess I have to do it. I don't want that one. What did I say I was going to use? Bold. Okay, I just want the bold. Okay, I need to give this a project name, because it's going to, you're going to get one piece of code, and then you can go back in and add multiple fonts, and you don't have to replace the link in your text. So I'm going to say create a new project, and here I'm going to call it type specimen, and I'm going to click create. And now it's giving me the code for the HTML link. And like I said before, I prefer to use the @import link. So I'm going to go over here and again, ignore the style tags, just grab everything from the @ to the semicolon. I'm going to take that. I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to paste it at the very top. There we go. Now the question is, how do I refer to the font? Because it uses a different method here. So I'm going to go back here, and it's giving me right here all the so the font family name is going to be Gil-Sans-Nova. It's got the font weight and the font style there for me. I probably wouldn't need these two, but it's good to have them just in case. So if you have more than one font, there's going to be this is going to scroll down for all of them. So you might want to copy and paste this somewhere so you have it available, but at least you'll know Gil-Sans-Nova is the name of the font. So I'm going to go ahead and grab all of this, copy it over here, and paste it for my headline. And there we go. I've changed my headline. I'm not going to go ahead and do the P tag because I think you get the idea. So that's how you use web fonts. I posted something in a page in Canvas that I would like you to read. it's about choosing fonts and the importance of choosing fonts, and it focuses mostly on choosing body copy, because that is really tricky to because it's very small and it needs to be very legible, and it really sets the tone for the page. So the article is very informative, and you get some sense of, what's the difference between a print font and a web font. They're very different. Web fonts are designed precisely to be viewed on the screen. And there's an infographic here with a lot of information about like do's and don'ts for choosing your web font for your page. So take a look at this. It's really helpful. That is all I have. I can answer any questions in class, but I hope that's been helpful. And, like I said, be ready to use web typography in all of your projects. I do expect it. So thank you very much.